How does one man conquer the known world before his 33rd birthday? This isn't a myth. It's the story of Alexander the Great, a military genius whose ambition reshaped history forever. In just over a decade, he forged one of the largest empires the world had ever seen, stretching from Greece to India. But how did he do it? Let's uncover the life of the legendary king, warrior, and visionary. Born in 356 BC in Pella, the capital of Macedonia, Alexander was no ordinary prince. His father was the formidable King Philip II, a brilliant military strategist who had unified most of Greece. His mother, the fiery Queen Olympias, instilled in him a belief in his own divine destiny. From a young age, Alexander's extraordinary nature was clear. At just 12, he famously tamed Bucephalus, a wild stallion no one else could ride, by simply noticing the horse was afraid of its own shadow and turning it toward the sun. This act of insight and courage won him the horse that would carry him across Asia. His education was as remarkable as his birth. From the age of 13, he was tutored by none other than the great philosopher Aristotle. For 3 years, Aristotle taught him everything from medicine and science to politics and literature. He gave Alexander a copy of Homer's Iliad, which Alexander reportedly kept under his pillow. He saw himself as a new Achilles, destined for glory on the battlefield. But his training wasn't just intellectual. At 16, while his father was away on a campaign, Alexander served as regent, crushing a revolt and proving his mettle. By 18, he was a commander, leading the decisive cavalry charge at the Battle of Chaeronea that secured his father's control over all of Greece. He was already a proven leader, battle-hardened and ready for more. Then, in 336 BC, everything changed. King Philip was assassinated, thrusting 20-year-old Alexander onto the throne. His claim was not secure. Rivals plotted, and conquered Greek city-states saw a chance to rebel. Alexander acted with terrifying speed and brutality. He executed his political rivals and marched south. When the city of Thebes revolted, he made an example of it, razing it to the ground, killing 6,000 people and selling 30,000 more into slavery. The message was clear. Defiance would not be tolerated. All of Greece fell silent. With his home base secure, Alexander turned his eyes to the east, to his father's ultimate, unfinished dream, the invasion of the mighty Persian Empire. In 334 BC, he crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor with an army of about 40,000 disciplined Macedonians and Greeks. His stated goal was to liberate the Greek cities under Persian rule, but his ambition was far greater. His first major test came at the Granicus River. Outnumbered, he faced a formidable Persian force. In a move of characteristic audacity, Alexander led a cavalry charge directly across the river and uphill, shattering the enemy line and securing a stunning victory. It was a sign of things to come. He swept through Asia Minor, and it was here he encountered the legendary Gordian knot. The legend said that whoever could untie the intricate knot would rule all of Asia. Instead of trying to unpick it, Alexander simply drew his sword and sliced it in half. A year later, in 333 BC, at the Battle of Issus, he faced the Persian king Darius III himself. Darius had a massive army, but Alexander's superior tactics and personal bravery won the day. He led a charge straight at Darius, who fled the battlefield, leaving behind his army, his treasure, and even his own family. Alexander treated the captured royal family with honor, a move that earned him respect throughout the empire. From there, he marched south along the coast. The seemingly impregnable island fortress of Tyre resisted him. For 7 grueling months, Alexander besieged the city. building a massive causeway from the mainland to the island walls under constant attack. When Tyre finally fell, his retribution was merciless. The city was destroyed, and its population was killed or sold into slavery. Next, Egypt. In stark contrast to Tyre, the Egyptians welcomed him as a liberator from their Persian overlords. They crowned him pharaoh and declared him a living god. He journeyed to the remote oracle of Siwa, where the priests proclaimed him the son of the god Zuzaman, confirming his own belief in his divine heritage. It was here, on the coast of the Mediterranean, that he founded the first and most famous of his many cities, Alexandria, a future beacon of learning and culture. Now, Alexander was ready for the final confrontation. In 331 BC, near the village of Gaugamela, he met Darius for the last time. The Persian king had gathered an immense army, perhaps 250,000 men, complete with scythed chariots and war elephants. Alexander's army was outnumbered at least 5 to 1. What followed was a tactical masterpiece. Using an oblique advance, he drew the Persian cavalry out to the flanks, creating a gap in their center. Seizing the moment, Alexander led his elite companion cavalry in a wedge formation straight for Darius. Once again, the great king of Persia panicked and fled. The Persian army collapsed. The battle was over. The gates of the Persian Empire were now wide open. Alexander marched into Babylon and Susa, a conquering hero. He then reached the ceremonial capital, Persepolis, a city of immense wealth and splendor. In a controversial act, he burned the grand palace to the ground, whether it was a drunken accident or a deliberate act of revenge for the Persian burning of Athens 150 years prior. We'll never know. With Darius on the run, Alexander declared himself the new king of Asia. The hunt for Darius ended when the former king was assassinated by one of his own governors, Vespus. Alexander had the traitor executed and gave Darius a royal burial, solidifying his claim as the legitimate successor. But Alexander's ambition knew no bounds. He pushed further east into the unknown territories of Central Asia, modern-day Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. For 3 years, he fought a brutal guerrilla war in the harsh mountains of Bactria and Sogdiana to forge an alliance and stabilize the region. He married Roxana, the beautiful daughter of a local chieftain. His sights were now set on the fabled land of India. In 326 BC, at the Hydaspes River, he faced his most challenging opponent yet, King Porus and his army of war elephants. The Macedonians had never faced these terrifying beasts in battle. In a brilliant nighttime maneuver, Alexander crossed the rain-swollen river and outflanked Porus's army. The battle was ferocious, but Macedonian discipline and Alexander's genius prevailed. Deeply impressed by Porus's bravery, Alexander not only spared his life, but made him an ally, extending his kingdom. He wanted to march on to the great river Ganges and the edge of the world. But his army had finally reached its limit. After 8 years of constant marching and fighting, thousands of miles from home, they mutinied at the Hyphasis River. His loyal, exhausted veterans refused to go any further. For the first time, Alexander had to relent. Heartbroken, he agreed to turn back. The journey home was catastrophic. Choosing to explore a new route, he led a portion of his army through the unforgiving Gedrosian desert. Thousands died from heat and thirst. Back in Persia, he found his empire in disarray. He executed corrupt governors and tried to fuse his Greek and Persian cultures, arranging a mass wedding between his officers and Persian noblewomen and adopting Persian dress and customs himself. This, however, caused great tension with his proud Macedonian veterans. Alexander began planning his next great campaign, an invasion of Arabia, and then the conquest of the West. But it was not to be. In June of 323 BC, after a prolonged banquet in Babylon, he fell ill with a raging fever. 10 days later, Alexander the Great was dead. He was just 32 years old. The cause of his death remains a mystery. It could have been malaria, typhoid fever, or even poison. When asked on his deathbed to whom he left his vast empire, he supposedly whispered, "To the strongest." He left no clear heir, and his empire immediately fractured as his ambitious generals fought each other for control in what became known as the Wars of the Diadochi. But his true legacy was not an empire of land, but an empire of ideas. His conquests spread Greek language, culture, and thought across the East, creating a vibrant new Hellenistic world that would last for 3 centuries and profoundly shape the future of Western civilization. From a young prince to a living god, Alexander's life was short, but his impact is eternal. Thanks for watching.